Alright, how's it going, everyone? I want to introduce you to today's project. Something I don't like doing very often, and that is a temporary repair. What we got on this plow truck that I recently bought is it's been a plow truck its whole life, so it's rusty, and I knew that, and I got a good deal on it, so no harm there. But one of the areas that is quite rusty is the oil pan, and I knew that it would probably be a matter of time. Looking for a light. I knew it would be a matter of time before it started leaking, because it wasn't when I got it, and I have not driven it. It's just sat in the garage since I got it. I did do a fluid filming of the frame and knocked all the scaly rust off. And I suspect at that time when I did that, I probably scraped the oil pan a little bit because it had some flaky rust on it, just to see how bad it was. And I noticed, this is all the flaky rust that I got off the frame. If you've dealt with rust before, you know what that's about. Kind of like scales a whole layer off, and then you can bust it off, and you end up with some metal underneath that's a little thinner, but it's still there, and it still has some strength to it. But what I noticed is this pool from here where my foot is over to there, that I've put some speedy dry on of oil, and it was right under the oil pan where the truck was parked. It was backed up a little bit. I now have it up on the lift, and we're going to do an inspection, and I could tell you that the oil pan is in fact leaking and dripping from what appears to be this area here. It is a little wet up in the front too, but I think that's just the front seal. I don't think it's rotted up there. I think it's leaking a little bit there. I think the leak that's persisting when it's just sitting here and not running is here. You can actually see that drip forming right there and kind of follow it. Looks like somewhere in this area here. I want to say like right there. Right at the tip of my finger, it looks like it's leaking. So it is kind of a flaky rust oil pan. It should be replaced, but I don't have one on hand, and there's some snow in the forecast. And rather than slowly dripping oil everywhere, I'm going to attempt a repair with some JB Weld, which I've done before on oil pans and had almost perfect results. So my plan is I'm going to spray this down with some brake cleaner to verify exactly where this leak is coming from, which I believe is right there. And then we're going to kind of mark it and take note exactly where it is. I'm going to drain the oil out really good. And then we're going to go ahead and wire brush and clean this metal down to bare, really clean metal, and continue to brake clean it and really get it as clean as we possibly can. And we're going to mix up some JB Weld and kind of smear it around in that area to patch the leak for now. And then we can let that fully dry, and then we can go ahead and put some fresh oil in and see how that goes. So like I said, I've had really good luck with this in the past, and I think that it will certainly last a number of days, if not months, and I've even had it go for a couple of years before. So that's what we're going to do for now, and we'll see what happens with the truck before I invest too much time and money into it. If it proves to be a valuable, good running truck that I want to keep, then I'll probably order up an oil pan and replace it. But for now, let's go ahead and take care of this repair. So if this is a slow leak, I'll probably put this on time lapse, but we're going to sit here and wait until we see evidence of dripping. I think it's right from that spot there. If after a minute or so it doesn't seem to be leaking, I'm going to scrape around a little bit and see if we can't elevate the leak. see it starting to puddle out right there. Yeah, you can see that little pinhole leak right there. See, as I'm scraping away at it, it becomes more evident. Almost like if you get a cut and it starts bleeding, you can see it popping through right there. So we're gonna go ahead and scrape all this other rust off here. Oh, it didn't take much. It's basically falling off. Gonna hit this with a wire wheel real good while there's still oil in it, and see if that opens up any more leaks, and then we'll spray it down again really good just to verify that it isn't leaking in another spot also, and then we'll have our leak identified. Yeah, there's no doubt where it's leaking now. Let me get a little drain bucket. All right, it appears to be isolated just to that one spot. So rather than going too crazy and cleaning this oil pan up that needs to be replaced honestly anyways, I'm going to just isolate it to that area and make the repair there. And then we'll see how long it lasts before another leak comes through. And I'll get an oil pan on order so I'm ready to exchange to change it out when the time comes where it really needs to be done. Let's see if we can do some trickery here. Kind of need a drain pan to catch that leak. And then drain pan here. Let's pull this plug and see what our oil's looking like. Okay, good, there was still some in there. That is right at the almost bottom of the oil pan, so it's going to take pretty much all that oil to drain out before that leak stops. The whole key to this is cleanliness. We really want to get all that rust off down to nice clean bare metal, and make sure there's no oil that's going to drip and seep and mix into the JB Weld. Like I said, this isn't a permanent repair, but it could buy you some time if you need to save up to have a repair done or whatever. It can be done, but it's all about the prep. If you try to put JB Weld on a dirty surface or a rusty surface, forget about it. You'll be lucky to get it to last a day. You get the surface nice and clean and rust free, oil free, you know, clean enough where you could eat off it, and then mix up your JB Weld and let it dry fully before you add the oil. A good 24 hours at the very least, in an environment that's at least 50 degrees, if not 60 or 70. Room temperature is nice. It will dry up and it will hold and seal. So I'm going to finish this up and I'll bring it back when we're down to wire brushing and cleaning the oil pan. So I'm patiently waiting for this to stop dripping. In the meanwhile, I took the oil filter off, figured maybe opening the system up a little would let it drain a little quicker. But I didn't start the truck. It's been sitting for at least a week, if not a couple of weeks. So all the oil should have been settled down to the bottom of the oil pan. It's not like I just started it and it was all up on the top end and working its way down. So it all should have been settled and sitting there. The only stuff that's dripping is just the stuff on the sides of the walls of the oil pan from where the oil was on the bottom. Shouldn't be coming from up above. Or I guess if the oil was above any of the engine components, or, oh, you know what, it's probably dripping out of the oil pump screen. It's probably coming out of there. That makes sense, because it was probably full of oil and it's going to keep dripping down slowly. But in the meanwhile, I started poking around at that little hole, and the little hole turned into a big hole. It's actually to the point where I could stick this right in now. So it is evident. So I basically kind of worked it around to try to get any of the weakest of the metal out. And then we could see we're left with actually, you know, I don't know, a 32nd of an inch or 18 gauge, whatever it is, steel all the way around this hole. It's actually kind of like a perfect circle. You can kind of see it there, but I can see nice shiny clean metal all the way around it. So we're gonna clean this area up, like I said, and JB Weld it, but we got to make sure that this is done dripping, because we can't have anything going into it. It looks like it's actually pretty much stopped now, but we're gonna let it sit for another 10-15 minutes, make sure nothing's coming out of that. All right, so all I used was a drill and a little wire wheel, and took some brake clean. You can see a little bit of oil still coming out of it, but you can see how we're down to nice pitted but clean bare steel. It's actually good that it's pitted. It's going to give the JB Weld something to adhere to. See if we can get a better look at it. There you go. And I'm confident that once we get that oil to stop dripping, that JB Weld will definitely seal that up and hold it. All right, to further ensure this repair, I'm sitting here thinking this thing's just going to keep dripping forever. What I did is I found a screw, of wire brushed it, so it's really clean. We're going to spray it off too. That's the right size for the hole. That actually just fits in there. It's just going to tighten up a little bit, but not too much. And what I did is I took a ball peen hammer and I tapped around this hole and kind of indented it just a little bit, which is kind of raising the hole up a little bit. Oh, before I did any of this, I stuck a pointer up in through the hole and felt around to make sure that there's nothing right there really close where this short little screw could interfere, or by closing the oil pan up a little right there would affect it. And there's nothing in this area at all for a good couple of inches. It's just a big open space. So what I'm doing by tapping that in a little bit, it's kind of creating the hole as a little bit taller, which is going to help prevent the oil from slowly dripping out of this hole in the meanwhile while I make this repair. And I'm going to go ahead and put this screw in, which will take up that space. And now that I kind of tap this in a little bit, the screw's almost going to kind of sit flush with the bottom of the pan. And then I'm just going to go ahead and spray it all down really good there. Make sure that nothing's coming out, and then go ahead and JB Weld right around the whole screw and the whole area right there. I went ahead and put this screw in, just wondering if maybe that was just going to temporarily seal it up to stop the drip so I could JB Weld it, and it's not. It's just still slowly dripping out of there. So what I decided I'm going to do, I've got the truck up on a lift. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bring it down on the lift, and I'm going to adjust the pads and the spacers to kind of tilt the truck back a little bit more like this, so the remainder of the oil that is in there is going to kind of go towards the back of the pan rather than keep going towards the front that it is right now. And that'll keep the oil away from that repair while the JB Weld sets up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, that worked out great. What I ended up doing was jacking just the back of the truck up to get all the oil that was in the pan to go all the way to the front to the drain. And I got maybe, I don't know, well, what fell on the floor right there out. And then I went and changed the pad so the truck is angled back a little bit more, and then brought it back up. So it all came out here, drained out in the front, and now it's angled back. So the little bit that's dripping is going to fill up the back of this pan, and it'll be quite some time before it makes its way all the way back up to here. by then the JB Weld should be fine. I sprayed that down 2-3 times, wiped it really good with the brake clean and a nice dry clean towel with no contaminants in it. So that's literally perfectly clean, and that's the surface that you're going to want to put JB Weld on. Anything other than that and it won't work. So let's go ahead and mix it up. And all you do to mix it, pretty simple. It's match equal parts. It's just 1-to-1 mix. I got some oil and a filter to put back in when the job's all done after this sets up. Just got the regular JB Weld epoxy. They make faster stuff. If you're in kind of a hurry, that would still hold just fine for this, but I'm a firm believer in the slower it takes to dry, the longer it'll last and the stronger that it is. So I'm in no hurry. It says it cures 15 to 24 hours. We're going to give it a couple of days inside the shop, which is heated. So this should dry up really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, mix it up, and apply it. Okay, got some mixed up here. Keep in mind, whatever you mix it with, you want to make sure it's perfectly clean and sterile. Don't want to introduce any contaminants into this epoxy. Okay, there we go. Just kind of pushed it really into the pores really good. Got way more than it really needs to be on there. Just kind of gobbed it on and gives it a little more surface area to bond to. It's not like this is high pressure or anything. This is very low pressure. Actually almost no pressure on the bottom here. Just gravity pressure. And I would be willing to bet money that that will last at least a number of months. Wouldn't guarantee a year, but I'll guarantee at least a number of months. So once this is all dry, before I put the oil in and the drain plug back in and stuff, I'm just going to spray some rust preventative or whatever on the rest of this oil pan to slow down and stop the rest of the rust that's happening, just so we don't end up with another hole. And I'll probably just throw a little paint or something on it as well, just to kind of cover it up. Maybe just a Rust-Oleum or something. And that'll be it. We'll put some oil in it, and I think we'll be good to go, and that leak should be fixed. And that was pretty much the only leak in this truck, so the oil pan should be nice and dry after that. All right, guys, hopefully this helps you out. In case you need to make a temporary repair like this, you can do it. It will work. I've done this many, many times in the past with great success. This stuff really does miracles. It's good stuff. It's not just like a wives' tale or snake oil. JB Weld is the real deal. I've done a lot of repairs, a lot of different things with it. It's not perfect. It has its limitations, but it's definitely a good product. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.